Okay, welcome back to Arma 3 Mission Making in 15 minutes or less. And today we're going to be talking about tools for the job and how you can use the right tool to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. Because what you'll learn in Arma as you go through kind of mission making processes is that there's a bunch of different ways to achieve the same thing. But there's advantages and disadvantages that will depend on what it is that you're trying to do for the mission itself. We've got a couple of examples here of what we're talking about. The first one is looking at task Garrison, and the second one is going to look at just kind of putting guys down on the map for playing, and then we'll jump around the island and we'll look at where we've employed different things for different bits and pieces throughout. But let's start at the beginning. We'll talk about tools for the job and task Garrison. Now there are three ways. If you look over onto the right hand side onto waypoints, there are three ways of doing task Garrison, certainly that I'm aware of within Arma 3. And you could perhaps add the fourth way of you can mandrolically place stuff around the map. But if you're going to do it off of the waypoint systems or the systems, then there's three ways. The first one is within the advanced tab, and there's Garrison, and we've got that over here on the left hand side. These guys are just going to use that one. We've then got Lamb's waypoint task Garrison, which is here, and they're going to go and occupy that location there. And then if you go back into your assets tab, over to systems, and then down to Lambs, and we want task Garrison, and there's a Garrison module down here. Now immediately for speed, chucking down task Garrison, that's all you got to do. These guys here, task Garrison, they'll go and garrison a location within 50 meters of that waypoint marker, and they'll occupy the buildings. Super easy, super simple, job done. Same detail for these guys. I'm not sure on the radius for the default, but they'll go in, they'll occupy that. If you want some more control, then the module is the way forward. If you go into the module itself, you can give exit, so essentially they'll garrison the location, and then these guys won't move out of that location once garrisoned until they are hit. You can change that. If you hover over the tooltip, you give you those exit conditions for, and in this one we've got hit. I like fired. If they can start shooting at you, that's good, and that can now start moving around. Sort positions by height, put guys into higher positions within buildings. Be careful on using this on larger groups because they tend to cluster in the same location. So you may not necessarily want to do that, but if you have smaller groups and you want them to occupy the higher stories within a building, then sort position by height is good. Teleport units, so if we check that, that means that the guys will be teleported there at the start of the mission. So they'll already be in the garrison location, if you will. They'll already be in their set positions, rather than the other two modules where they have to walk there. And dynamic patrol. So what this one does is takes the unit that we've got here, a 4-man team, and it will split off a bloke who will then just start doing some random patrol routes around the location for you. So that's why I really like the modules. They're a bit more intensive on the CPU, but does an excellent job, as all of the Lambs stuff does. So that's Garrison, three different ways. Well, this is the kind of secret option, 4 ways you kind of do it mandrolically, but 3 ways of doing Garrison. What else have we got? This one's kind of really for immersion. It's making sure that you've got things working in the way that you want them to allow your experiences to be more immersive or more realistic. So here we've got a, let's say, a poorly disciplined fire team on stagging on at a vehicle checkpoint, and we've got a chap up in the tower. He's on Overwatch, the commander who's with him, and then 2 guys just kind of sat around doing nothing. Now these guys are on ambient animation, so if I double click on him, jump down to ambient animations, you can see he's down on sit low. He needs to be on can exit so that he can come out of that if they get shot at. This guy, he's on kneel, he's got checked can exit, come out of that, and then we go into this guy here. The changes on this guy is we go into let's say special states. It's definitely not special states, it's AI. Trying to remember. Disabled is path. Now if you want somebody to stay in a location and not move, there are 2 ways of doing it that I know of. One is disable path, and the other one is disable any movement. By disabling path, this guy can still engage the enemy, but he will stay in a position of hard cover. So he will stay in this location he can take a knee, so you can suppress him. He'll lay down if you fire at him a lot. But he'll stay in the hard cover location because the AI is not great at that. The other way that you can do that, so if you want them to stay in a location until the contact kicks off, then you can use do stop this within the init field of each object. And then they will essentially stay in that location until the contact kicks off, and then the normal AI behavior will kick in. What does that mean? Well, these guys here, as soon as we come under contact, whilst you can't guarantee it for demonstration because of the AI, the likelihood is they will come out from behind the hard cover of these concrete barriers to the significantly less hard cover of the grass, and if they're lucky, maybe a bush, which is unrealistic. It detracts from immersion. They'd be more likely, particularly if they're being suppressed, they would be more likely just to lay down there and stay underneath that hard cover and not move, because it's a lot safer than moving out into the open. This guy will take a knee, but he will be stuck on that position, so that's a little bit detracts from immersion, but at least he'll stay in the hard cover. And this guy is a squad leader, will probably just run around like a lunatic. So varying degrees of immersion. There's nothing that does the job perfectly unless you're going to get people to do it. But for the AI, that's about as good as it's going to get for your kind of immersion piece. Let's move on to the Garrison stuff. So if we're looking at the tools for the job and the task Garrison, we've got over here, this is what these guys are going to do. They're going to jump in there, and these two teams will go and occupy their position. What I am going to do is move them significantly closer so that we can do this demonstration without taking all day. So we'll let them get in there, and we'll then introduce some other guys. Finally, I did say that we'd look at some other kind of options. So let's say you want to introduce a hunter force into the location. Well, there's a couple of ways of doing that. You can have a normal force kind of patrolling around. One of the other ways is Gbus. So if we go into Gbus, not that guy, we need to go into the guy. Go into the Gbus script. We've got this entity will spawn between 4 and 8 times, and it will randomly spawn at one of these locations. Once it randomly spawns at one of those locations, they'll then undertake this activity. So they'll move to this kind of rally point at this junction, and then they'll go on to a task hunt. And now, about a kilometre around that location, they'll hunt down any playable characters in that environment. That's what task hunt does. Brilliant bit of kit. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is through scripting. So we've got here hunter force. So as soon as the op4 present, the number of op4 present falls below less than or equal to 11, then we're going to execute a script that says hunterforce.executf. So originally I kind of talked through this script, but actually there's a more important thing that I can bring out here, and that is that this isn't my script. This is someone else's script. This is written by a guy called Say Uncle, and that's his YouTube channel. And you'll go onto the description, you'll see his details in there. And the point being is that a bunch of the stuff that you want to do, somebody else has probably already tried to do it. So if you get onto the forums, onto the wiki, onto YouTube, you'll find someone else who's either tried it and it doesn't work, or will give you kind of those limitations. That's the point of it. So get out there, get some reading, and get exploring. Where else do we kind of do different things? Well, if you want to do a bit of dynamic movement in an area, we've got this guarded by trigger, and then you can watch the triggers tutorial, but essentially this allows you to put down a bunch of different units and give them the guard by waypoint, and they'll move into occupy these locations in priority order. So you've got a dynamic reinforcement without having to do much in the way of scripting or putting stuff down. You just put these chaps down here, and they'll automatically move in and occupy those locations here. What else we've got? We've got other means of reinforcement. So we're using some guys placed down on the map here, and they're just on a skip waypoint. As soon as blue 4 are detected, these guys will jump in and fly over and do a reinforcement in and around this location here. Other things that we've got as well is different ways of means of doing support. So we've got Simplex Support services here, which can do an airdrop. We've got airframes that can do, and that's kind of a repeatable airdrop. We've got airframes that will do individual supply drops, and we've also got different airframes doing power drops. So this aircraft here is going to drop some blokes out the back of the airplane. This aircraft here is going to drop some people out the back of the aircraft. And it's all about what is it that you want to achieve and what is the best way of doing it. And to be honest, that really comes from experience. There's no substitute for it. But these will at least give you, and particularly on this map, will give you an idea of some of the things that you can do. But that's a lot of talking. Let's jump into game. Let's have a look and see what the scenarios that we've talked about in here actually look like in game. Okay, and here we are in game. So let's have a quick look at the immersion piece, see what that looks like. We've got our 2 chaps. They're on ambient animation, so that's pretty cool. They're doing some stuff and some things. But what we'll likely see in a minute when the contact kicks off is that they'll start running around into the open ground, which is not what we want. This chap here will probably stay on position, but he is literally just going to stay on that position. He's not going to move. And this guy will react dynamically to the situation as it changes. But as you approach immersion, that's okay. It would be then just kind of that reaction to the frustration that I have as the guy's just running out of hard cover into the grassland. That's frustrating. If we look down here, we've got these guys. They've already occupied, so we've got a garrison force here, and this is kind of the default, or it's under advanced and then task garrison. And you've seen they've taken up a position in various buildings and locations, although 2 blokes sit outside the front, not really garrisoning in my book, but who am I to judge? And then this is the Lamb's garrison here. You can see they're just finalising their positions of where they're going to occupy, but they've moved in without any kind of additional direction. They've taken up some positions within the buildings. There is that lack of control with the module. You can tweak and adjust the radius, I think, but I've never done it. I rarely use it because my preferred tool is the module. And the reason why I like the module is because it does give me that element of control. I've put over these buildings. They'll occupy within those buildings, and that's it. I can adjust it, make it bigger and smaller as I want to. I could have them just go into that one building if I wanted to. And then that ability to change the exit trigger. So on this one, you'll remember they're on fired. You might have them that don't move at all. You want to do building clearance and you want them to stay in that position. You can do that. I love the little dynamic patrol as well. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at in terms of the setup. And then the other consideration is reaction to contact. How are they going to react to fire? Well, if we do our little immersion dude, we need some guys to do this. It's blue for special forces and a recce troop, because why wouldn't you have Arctic recce troops? Make sure the sound's down. Cool, so the sound's down for the game. Sorry, you're losing a little bit of the ambience, but obviously you can't hear if there's gunfire going off. And these guys are going to attack. It's going to attack that position. And as you can see, as soon as it all kicks off, hey, perfect. So as soon as it all kicks off, your man's run out from hard cover. This guy has been suppressed. So he's taken a knee. He's in cover, but he can still react. And this guy is trying to react. I'm not entirely sure what he's trying to do. He's probably trying to get back down. But there we can see just that lack of... And maybe you could say it is realistic. They're panicking. They're running away. I don't know. But not for me. Let's put another bunch of guys down. So recce troop. Go and close with and kill the enemy. And you can see that the contact's kicked off. And these guys are immediately withdrawing to hard cover. So that's kind of what you really want to see. And we've got these guys spread out, and this is kind of where that lack of control comes in. You've got a four-man team, and they're spread out across a bunch of different buildings. So there is a little bit of lack of control there as well. Go and close with and kill them. And then finally, we've got our... so let's come from this direction for funsies. We've got our other little garrison here, so let's take our recce troop down here. Off you go, chaps. Go and close with and kill those. So you'll see these guys, as soon as they can fire, they can move. But until they can fire, they can't move, which means that your man here, who is on this side of the building, might be able to do stuff, but he can't really react to that contact. He can't move to that window and start shooting. So there are limitations to the AI. This guy here can now fire. That's the patrol chap, so he's reacting accordingly. I don't think these guys can fire yet, so they're not able to react. He might have been able to fire. No, we're kind of just stuck in here doing not very much at all. So that gives you an idea of the limitations there. These guys now, they're running out of open ground. Sorry, hard cover into open ground, and not in such a tactical manner as well. So the AI just isn't capable, isn't clever enough to do it. Which is again why my preference is Lambs. It's kind of about the best of of what you're going to get, unless you're going to do it mandrolically. We've already talked about the immersion. This is our little Hunter Force Patrol kicking about doing their thing. Guys, that is it. That is mission making 15 minutes or less. And today we just talked about the tools for the job and about the fact that there are a whole bunch of different ways of achieving things that you want to achieve in Arma 3. But there's pros and cons to each. And it's really getting in and experiencing the game that you'll kind of learn which ones you want to use and when. Any questions, leave them for me in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them as ever. Thanks very much. Take care. Goodbye.